Hi everyone, for today's book review we're going to check out this new history of the French line, or more accurately the Compagnie Générale Transatlantique, the company and their ships, written by Les Streater. And we'll angle it so we don't blind you with the reflections. This gentleman has written many fantastic books about ocean liners and French ships. Most recently he published a revised edition of his earlier book about the L'Atlantique. He has also done a 5-volume history of the Normandy. You might see in frame there is a shelf of his books that sit down here. This wonderful book is exactly what the title says. It is a history of the company with a focus on their ships. You can see up here in the photos that aside from the first chapter that details the history of the company, the bulk of it is, as you can see, a catalogue of their various ships and a summary of those various ships' careers. Building specifications, passenger capacities, speeds, etc. A summary of the ship's life and its ultimate fate. Sunk, scrapped, constructive total loss, or with some of the earlier cases, trace lost. Reading this book, I found it an interesting extension to Norman Middlemesser's book, The French Line, which is part of the Merchant Fleets series that were written by Duncan Hawes. And whereas this book has illustrations showing the layout of the various ships, Les's book is pure photos. 99% of the photos are black and white, as you're seeing up here. There are some color photos towards the back of the book, mainly dealing with some posters. I find that this is a wonderful approach to give you a holistic view of the history of the French line, and you get a sense that the French line is more than just its famous North Atlantic giants. It's more than just the two Frances, the Ile-de-France and of course the Normandy. And this book gives you that sense of scale and scope. Should this book enter a second edition though, what my recommendation would be is to increase the size of the book by 5 pages, and for some of the ships that have second photographs, to expand the size of those photos. Maybe it's age catching up with me, but for some of the photos, the second photos that are incorporated into these images, just far too small to appreciate the detail, particularly when in the instances where the second image has been placed, it usually refers to the ship in a position of being sunk or scrapped, or in a guise very different to its French line appearance. Some vessels do get a larger scope. Both Frances, of course the Ile-de-France, and of course the Normandy get multiple pages of treatment. But most vessels have their entry with one photo, and you've seen a selection of the few up here. As I said, the benefit of this book is that you can really appreciate and understand the size and scope of the French line fleet. They weren't just running across the North Atlantic. They had far more diverse routes, and the variety of their ships and indeed the evolution of ship styles is fascinating to see. And having this photographic format allows you to witness the projection of these vessels. It's also a fantastic introduction to the history of French line. Both this and this would complement each other very well. Of course, if you already have William Miller's French line book, then consider this a step up, because whereas that one covers very briefly the modern vessels, this one looks at the complete history. So it looks at all the liners from the 19th century right through until the company was wound up. So, for me, this is a 4 out of 5 captain's hats. beware that if you do have failing eyesight, or your eyes aren't that good, you may need a magnifying glass for some of the smaller images. But putting that aside, it is a beautiful, detailed, well-presented look at the history of this fascinating company and its many interesting ships. So do check it out.